If you're looking to build a sub $500 gaming PC today, you can literally go into Micro Center right now and copy this part by part, then I got you covered. Let's get into it. Today's video is sponsored by GVG Mall, an online key reseller with our favorite Windows 10 Pro keys. If you're looking to remove that nasty Windows 10 unactivated watermark on your latest gaming PC, head on down to the links in the description. Here you'll find a Windows 10 Pro OEM key for under $17, but we want it cheaper than that. Select buy now and enter the discount code ZTT18 for an exclusive 18% off discount, which drops the price down to just $13. Go through the rest of the purchasing options. I'd recommend PayPal, and within a minute or so you'll get your Windows 10 Pro key. Now on your PC, click start and type in activation and press enter, choose change product key, paste in your new key, and bang, Windows 10 is now activated. This is my personal way of activating my PCs. Check out my purchased order history here, so grab a Windows 10 key for yourself with the link in the description using discount code ZTT18. Alright, so before jumping into this gaming PC build guide, I first wanted to thank all of you for congratulating us on having our second baby. For those of you that care, we're all doing fine over here, and basically my wife has been watching the newborn all by herself all day, and I've been watching Antonio, our almost 2-year-old, all day by myself. I'm super thankful that all of your support allowed me to quit my job at the beginning of the year so that I now have the option to hang out with my family all day. Antonio and I have been having some super fun days together, but as you can imagine, I'm absolutely exhausted with this new lifestyle, and I'm only ever working like 5 hours a night right now after he goes to bed. Thankfully, I actually just hired some help. He actually starts tomorrow. His name is Sam, and he's going to be in charge of the benchmarking, all of the inventory management, and configuring and selling the PCs, so I'm super excited to have him on board. The ZTT team is now up to 4 people, including him and myself, and also Dr. Deals and my new video editor, Jason. So once again, thank you guys all very much for making all of this possible. With that aside though, let's jump into this parts list, and first up we have the Ryzen 3 3200G. I am making a video here soon featuring the brand new APU soon, so make sure you're subscribed for that. I literally just used this one a couple of weeks ago in my other super budget new gaming PC build guide, and this one is such a solid start to any sub $500 gaming PC here in 2021. The 3200G is rocking Vega 8 integrated graphics, which allows us to save money now by not buying a graphics card, but then we can eventually upgrade to a somewhat beefy GPU in the future without having to worry about bottlenecking. The motherboard I paired with the 3200G is the ASRock B450M Pro 4, which is micro ATX form factor, and there's honestly not much thought process that went into this one other than it matches our color scheme of gray, black, and blue. If you went into Micro Center today, you would actually save $30 on that CPU and mobile combo, and that's why I love promoting and using Micro Center products, and they actually sent everything in this build guide today except for a few aesthetic only choices. Micro Center is obviously my favorite store on the planet as it's such a fun place to shop. They actually have some GPUs coming in stock lately, and if you live close to one, you're probably already visiting it quite frequently if you're watching my videos. Big thank you to them for hooking us up with this build guide today. Alright, so next up we have the RAM kit, and because I was buying everything at Micro Center, I actually stumbled upon this Neo Forza Faye 2x8GB kit that's clocked at 3200 megahertz, and I've never heard or seen this brand before. I wish I could give you some juicy details about it, but as you'll see soon in the benchmarking section, it performed perfectly fine just like any other RAM kit that I would have selected from Amazon or Newegg or whatever, and aesthetically it's actually pretty clean and fits this build perfectly fine. Next up for storage, you know we gotta go with an Inland SSD when we're shopping at Micro Center, and this is the Inland Professional 512GB NVMe drive. Despite only costing around $58, this is actually rocking pretty solid read and write speeds of 2000 over 1500 megabytes per second, and it does have DRAM, so this is honestly almost always a solid choice to go with for these budget builds. Next up we have the power supply, and this is the Gigabyte P450B, which is 80+ bronze certified. Probably not the best power supply you want for a super high-end build, but if you're just putting together a cheaper build like this, I think you'll be perfectly fine. And then finally we get to this case, and this is the Cooler Master Masterbox Q300L. I think this might be an upgraded version because I've heard a lot of people hating on this case, and when I built inside of it, it was actually pretty decent. Starting with the two negatives though, first up, it only has an acrylic side panel, so definitely be sure you're careful with it because it'll scratch just by looking at it the wrong way. And second, it doesn't have any PSU basement. This isn't great in terms of aesthetics, and I was worried about the cable management, but there was actually a shocking amount of room in the back to store all of your cables, including a non-modular power supply with cable extensions on there, so definitely an easy case for cable management if you're one of those crazy people that does that kind of thing. everything. I obviously don't. Other than that though, I could mount my 5 up here RGB fans essentially wherever I wanted to inside this case. I think it has a pretty decent gray and black aesthetic, which is what I tailored the entire build around, and for 50 bucks, it's not terrible. Now I will say at this price point for a case, you definitely could find a better deal online. Joining the ZTT Discord server, which is linked down below, and following the Dr. Deals channel would definitely be a great start. But when shopping at Micro Center, I would say that the budget case option is probably the only thing that you're actually a little bit limited on. They have a ton of case options for higher end build guides, but for the cheaper ones, they are indeed a little limited, and they don't carry some of those monster price to performance budget cases from Montech, DIY PC, etc. For aesthetics, I just mentioned those 5 up here RGB fans, and the only other part that I added were these black, gray, and blue cable extensions, and these are also from up here. These extensions definitely aren't bad for the price. I went with these purely because of the color option that they had here, but just like always, if Asia Horse has the color scheme you're looking for, then that would still be my #1 recommendation. And also, as you probably noticed already, I did of course vinyl wrap the top and side of the power supply because there is no PSU basement. I used this gray carbon fiber vinyl wrap from Vivid, which is linked down below, along with everything else I just talked about, and for just a few bucks and about 5 minutes of time, this is almost always worth doing in my opinion. So that's what the final roughly $450 gaming PC looks like if you wanted to buy everything today. The only things I didn't buy from Micro Center were the up here fans, vinyl wrap, and cable extensions. And before throwing the GPU into the parts list, let's take a quick look at just how well a PC like this would perform if you are not buying your GPU right away. Without further ado, here are all the benchmarks all at once for you. Just as a quick note, I did steal these numbers from the 3200G 16GB of RAM build that I did just 2 weeks ago. No sense in running that all over again, but as you can see, these are still some pretty decent numbers for not having a tough to find graphics card right now. And yes, I did run a couple of these to verify that this PC was getting the same exact results as the previous build, which it did. With the 3200G, Valorant gets 174 FPS, CSGO gets above 120, and even Fortnite in 1080p low settings gets above 60, not too shabby. I do want to show the benchmarks after you throw a GPU in there. The sweet spot for me is something like a GTX 1650 Super, which is what we'll be running with, but before getting into that, I wanted to quickly prove to you that you can still dominate online first-person shooters without a graphics card right now. Let me show you. Hopefully you all enjoyed that, but as promised, now here are the benchmarks after you do decide to upgrade, and like I said, I would personally recommend the 1650 Super. I personally just picked this one up from EVGA Bstock for only $175. Here we are seeing much higher frame rates in the harder to run AAA titles like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Borderlands 3, etc., and even Warzone is over there getting above 75 FPS in 1080p with low settings. Man, this one is still really tough to run. Well, that's gonna wrap up yet another budget build guide, but this one you can actually buy everything other than that GPU right now today at Micro Center if you wanted to. If you're in the market for a budget build guide, I would highly recommend checking out the video that's on the screen now just so you can see even more options. But just like always, I hope you enjoyed this video.